Good evening. I think we're ready to get the forum started. I'm Scott Underwood from the Herald Bulletin, and we're happy to sponsor tonight's forum of Anderson mayoral candidates on the ballot for the May primary. We're lucky tonight to have all 8 candidates in attendance and a great crowd. I think the last few years we've done this is the largest crowd we've had. We do ask that you show respect to the candidates and to the other spectators by holding the response until candidates are done with their statements. And that would be great. If you turn your cell phones off too, that would be fantastic. And if we could get you, officer in the back there, maybe close that door so we're not getting office noise from out in the lobby, that would be great. We hope that this forum proves to be informational for you all. The idea is to get candidates for major offices like this out in public, to get them to respond to questions about issues that are important to the city of Anderson. And so I think you'll come away from this forum tonight with a good feel for what the candidates stand for and what their ideas are on specific issues. The format for tonight's forum is we have Republicans up on the stage first. As you can see, there are 5 of these gentlemen. And then we'll have Democrats go when the Republicans are finished. If you need to leave at some point, we would ask that you wait after the Republicans are finished. If you need to leave, then leave before the Democrats start so you're not disturbing other people in the audience. We'd love to have you stay for the whole thing. I figure we'll be done by 12:30 or 1 in the morning at the very end. Now that's the precise reason that we have time limits set. Steve Dick, who's the associate editor of the newspaper, is seated here in the front row, and Steve has some time cards that he'll hold up to the candidates to let them know how much longer they have to respond. He's got little bell he strikes when they've gone too long. Hear that? What we have for each candidate is 1 minute for an opening statement, 1 minute to respond to each of 5 questions, and 2 minutes for a closing statement. The questions were all drafted by the editorial board of the Herald Bulletin with input from our readers. The order in which the candidates are going was determined just now by a blind draw backstage. We were actually doing something back there. And I think we're ready to go. So our Republicans up here on the stage. Mr. McClish has first opening statement, and he has 1 minute. You are on the clock, Mr. McClish.
My name is Paul McClish, and I am running for mayor of Anderson. My platform is just plain and simple. I plan on being a people's mayor, working for the people, and basically putting the city as my office. Plan on listening to the people, conducting town hall meetings weekly in every part of the city to get the input. That's the only way we can turn around and build this city back up. My motto is, time to rebuild. We've got to rebuild Anderson back to our hometown status. There's a lot of people that don't call it hometown now. We've got to bring that back. I've got a lot of things I've been working on we can do businesses in. I've been lobbying businesses right now. This is what we have to do. Thank you.
Mr. Melton.
Thank you. My name is Richard Melton. I'm owner of Star Realty in St. Croix, Estrella. I have 5 real estate offices: Anderson, Indiana; Richmond; Fort Wayne; Indianapolis; and Riverside, California. I have a number of employees that depend upon me for a living. Before this, I worked with General Motors, Chrysler, and Alice Chalmers. In those capacities, I was concerned with getting the bottom line back, making the operation profitable. My first assignment at General Motors, I eliminated over $100,000 and brought the department back to a profitable situation. If I become mayor, I'm going to turn this city around. I've already brought over 300 jobs to the city. Kim gave you a little handout that shows some of the places that I have brought to Anderson. It includes 7 O'Reilly automotive stores. It includes Dollar General. Thank you.
Can you folks in the back of the auditorium hear the candidates okay? Can you hear me okay? Okay, thank you. Mr. Stapleton.
First, I'd like to say thanks to you, Scott, the newspaper, and everyone that attends this evening. My name is Jay Stapleton, and I'm running for mayor. I've been in Anderson most of my adult life, all of my adult life. And I've been in business all of my adult life with my family or businesses I've created. And I know that there's many things that business leaders have to offer. We have to listen to what they say. When you say, what is government going to do to create jobs? Government doesn't create jobs. The best thing government can do a lot of time is get the heck out of the way. Now, there are certainly assistance that government can give to people, but what we need to do is make sure that we listen to the successful businessmen and women in this town and do what they need. Don't go looking for jobs elsewhere if you're not willing to give these same benefits, whether they be tax abatements, whatever, to the same businesses to help them grow right here in Anderson. I pledge that's what I'll do if you elect me as your mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Adcock.
Hi, I'm Bob Adcock, and I mean business for Anderson. I love this town. It prepared me for a great life. I started at Park Place School and finished at Anderson University, where I got a business degree, and I played baseball and football there, where I learned about teamwork and how with teamwork you can achieve great things. Now, I played a couple of years of pro baseball until they found out I couldn't hit curveballs. And then I had to go out and get a real job. So I got into business. I was involved with pre-selling the NASDAQ system, which is one of the great stock markets in the world. And in my business life, I learned that there are up cycles and down cycles in business, and I feel like we're coming to a great spot, and I want to have the city people ready for that upturn.
Thank you, Mr. Adcock. And Mr. Smith.
Thank you very much. You know, ladies and gentlemen, it's been 4 years. And this is a great opportunity for the citizens of Anderson to be able to make some comparisons. There was a 4-year record of the Smith administration, and now there's a 4-year record of the Ockman administration. And really, this boils down to how both administrations function in the way of job creation, in the way of treatment of employees, in the way of recruiting new jobs to the community. Those are the issues, reducing the taxes that were done, because we want to create an environment that creates jobs. So it's a great comparison. We're proud of our record, where many companies that were announced, in fact, continue to have an effect on our economy. Affiliated Computer Services, for instance, which is announced is going to 1,000 employees from the original announcement of 450. And of course, Nestle has announced an expansion again. Thank you very much.
That concludes the opening statements for the candidates. Now we'll go into the questions. Question number one, and Mr. Smith will be the first to respond to this. What program would you institute for neighborhood revitalization?
I think we go back and begin focusing on neighborhoods again, as we did with our CDBG funds, community development block grant funds, as they were. What we tried to create is a couple things. Number one, marry government dollars that were available through the federal sources with housing, Habitat for Humanity, who we partnered with, Anderson Community Schools, vocational students, to build some infill housing. We also concentrated those dollars in a shift away from just housing, but also restoration, because the neighborhood can't grow if it doesn't have proper water lines and sewer lines in the services. Great example of that has been cited recently on 17th Street around Sherman, where that area was taken. There were homes that were dilapidated. Some had sat vacant for maybe 16 years or so. those were actually demolished and new houses were filled in. Plus the architectural features that made those houses look like they fit the neighborhood.
Okay, candidates, I'll repeat the question one more time and then won't bother to repeat it before each candidate goes. If you want me to repeat it before your turn, just let me know. So the question for you, Mr. McClish, is what program would you institute for neighborhood revitalization?
Currently, right now, we're working on a program, and my team is, to look at the buildings that are, the houses that are in the neighborhoods right now that can be rebuilt. And we're looking at building, to put a program in to where we could sell these houses to needy families for a dollar amount and give them 2 years to bring this house up to code. This will bring the empty properties off the tax box. It would also build our neighborhoods up to make our neighborhoods look more better. And at the end of the 2 years, if they do not bring them up, the city would get it back again, and we'd resell it to another family that would be willing to work with it. We've got the program in the works. We're working final details on it right now to see if it would work. But this is what we're working on to rebuild this town, to break it down, to basically rebuild the new house.
Mr. Melton?
Well, actually, the city is doing a pretty good job as it is in terms of revitalization. Star Realty sold, I believe, a block of 10 houses to the city, and this neighbor on West 10th Street, and this neighborhood was really revised. However, if I'm mayor, my main concern is jobs. Jobs, 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 jobs. You all are in trouble, and you better wake up and find out how much trouble you are in. This has to be turned around, and it can best be turned around by a business-minded community. Thank you.
Mr. Stapleton, what program would you institute for neighborhood revitalization?
I think revitalization is obviously a very key part to rebuilding our community. I believe that there could be tax abatements, there could be low-cost loans. I believe that we should encourage some of our people that live right here in, that work right here in Anderson that don't live here to move back into our city. And I'm talking about some of our doctors, lawyers, city employees, school teachers. I believe we need to encourage all of those types of people that are not currently living and supporting our infrastructure in Anderson to move back into these houses, revitalize some of these. These are beautiful homes if we don't allow them to fall down. And I think there would be programs through the government agencies that would certainly be fitted to use in these situations. And I do agree that the main focus has got to continue to be selling Anderson as a professional salesperson.
And Mr. Adcock?
I think we need to definitely do some things about the neighborhoods. I think the folks in Anderson have gotten a little down with the demise of GM and so on, and now I think that the main thing is to bring back high-paying jobs. I'm looking into high-tech jobs that would bring in high pay and give people a little bit more incentive to keep up their neighborhoods.
Okay, we're ready to move on to question number 2, which is, what is your plan to increase jobs, to bring new jobs to the community? And Mr. Adcock has the first chance to respond to this question.
I think we need massive action, and one of those things is to bring back, to be sure that we keep the wigwam. We have a great opportunity there. I talked to promoters who told me that we could have the same kind of people coming in there that entertain at Hoosier Park and at the Indiana State Fair. And if we can revitalize the wigwam and make it a going thing with high activity, it'll create jobs, it'll create opportunities throughout the city. Used cars, new car dealers will see more activity with more people on the streets. And we have, I think we have a great opportunity by doing that. Another place that I think will be good is Athletic Park. I think we can do so much to develop that into a driving range and a miniature golf. Thank you.
Mr. Smith?
Thank you very much. First of all, new job creation represents probably as much perseverance and hard work as it does anything else. Second, we're only as good as the qualified, skilled variety staff that we offer in those ways. And that's required to hire skilled people for various positions that can help plug in and make deals happen. As an example also, the infrastructure needs I can't overemphasize. If we had not been proactive in building a road, 73rd Street for Nestle, because it takes about 2 years for the city to turn around a road project, Nestle wouldn't have come to Anderson. So it has to be an assessment based on infrastructure, proactive sales. It's not a matter of waiting for the phone to ring for deals to come to us. We have to be also aggressive and go out and scour the business community for those leads too. 1 minute is not enough.
Mr. McClish?
On creating new jobs. Back in '03, when I ran for city council, I lobbied 2 businesses to come to Anderson, selling Anderson to these businesses. They were Marshalls and Culver's, both of them located here. Since I've announced my candidacy for mayor, I have talked to 18 different businesses, and I've got 13 responses back that they're looking into this area. I plan on keep lobbying businesses without using taxpayers' dollars. If I have to travel to a different city, I take the money out of my own pocket. I've already made trips to California and Tennessee already, lobbying businesses, selling Anderson to them, and they're looking, not committed yet, but they're looking. And this is what I plan on doing when I become mayor, of not using taxpayers' dollars to travel.
Mr. Melton, how would you bring jobs to Anderson?
Bringing jobs to Anderson is a complex problem, and as I said earlier, I've already brought over 300 jobs myself through Star Realty. One of the problems that we have is it's not only bringing jobs, but it's finding people who are willing to come to Anderson with our school system. Our school systems must change. They must change. Doctors, lawyers, and I've experienced with this through Madison County Health Center, they are not willing to come to Anderson with our school systems. Our SAT scores have got to rise. Our graduation rates have got to rise. The only way we can do this is to create a covenant school system. In other words, we have to pair with Yale University and Anderson school systems. We'll have to use the internet for additional training. We'll have to use state and whatever other IT tools we can to get our school systems up where they should be. Thank you.
And then the last response to this question, Mr. Stapleton.
I think everyone's hit all around the issue. The fact is, government doesn't create jobs. Government allows for an atmosphere that allows business to create jobs. Entrepreneurship is not taught in our schools. As Mr. Melton alluded to, we have some problems in our school system, and I think that in our private schools, public schools, and universities, that we should teach entrepreneurship. People that start businesses in Anderson or in a community have a tendency to stay here and build here. In fact, the Herald Bulletin just had an article in it today referencing an entrepreneur that started a small tea company that graduates this year from AU. That's the type of business that we need. If we keep looking to hit the home run every time and bring in 300, 500 jobs, we're going to be left exactly like we are now. We need to start building for the small business to be able to come here, support small business. That's what causes continuing growth in a community.
Okay, folks, hey, I would remind you, if you haven't yet, please check your cell phone and make sure that it's on silent. Thank you. The third question of the 5, and Mr. Stapleton will be the first to respond. It's actually more of a statement to respond to than a question. Assess Anderson's image and what you would do to address it.
The first thing that we have to do is everyone that's right here in this room today needs to talk good about Anderson. You know, when you go out and you talk to your friends and your family and people that live in the neighborhood, they talk bad about Anderson. They tell people that our schools are bad. They don't tell everyone all the good things that we have to offer, such as the Fine Arts Center, Paramount Theater, Anderson University. The Colts are coming back, have been back to Anderson, are going to continue to come back. We have Flagship. These are all pluses. We should be promoting them, and government needs to also, and when I say government, I'm talking about specifically the mayor's office, needs to create a bridge with the school board. Instead of an adversarial relationship as there have been for many, many years, we need to build a bridge so that we can work with them and we can dispel that old image that Anderson has a bad school, and we can rebuild the whole community. Go out and say something good about Anderson, like Councilman Papella does.
Mr. Adcock, assess Anderson's image and what you would do to address it.
I too think that we need to start talking highly of our city. We have so much to offer. We have, I believe we have 5 golf courses in a town of our size. We have beautiful trails. We have so much to offer, and we just need to get our kids staying here in town instead of leaving for Indianapolis or Chicago or wherever else they go.
Mr. Smith?
Assess the image of Anderson. You know, Anderson made great strides. I want to remind you something. And if you think back about 5, 6 years ago, think about the feeling that was on the ground in Anderson, Indiana. There were baskets of flowers hanging from the light poles on the bridges. The parks were well kept. The streets were clean and freshly paved. That's the internal image of Anderson and our own perception and how we feel about each other and our own community. The outside image is how Anderson is working professionally and what type of staff and interactions we're having with the rest of the community. Forbes magazine in 2007 named Anderson, Indiana in their top 100 best of small metropolitan areas. And the Indiana Chamber of Commerce named Anderson, Indiana, their Indiana Chamber of Commerce Community of the Year. That's an image. And that represents a lot of hard work, not only by the city, but also by Anderson University and others.
Mr. McClish?
The image of Anderson has to be brought back to where we call it hometown. I wasn't born and raised here. I was born and raised in Marion, but I have made Anderson my new hometown, and I'm proud of Anderson. I've traveled a lot, and when I mention Anderson, the people who have been here, this is what's going for, because we used to be GM town. I try and sell with Hoosier Park. Different things we've got going here. We've got to change the image back to Anderson of being our hometown. As mayor, I'll work to get that image back up. Instead of being called a bedroom town or anything like that, we've got to change the image of Anderson back to Anderson, a hometown we're proud to live in.
And Mr. Melton, your turn.
Again, as I say, there's one thing that has to happen first. Our school systems have to improve. How many times do I have to tell you they have to improve? I was at a fair not too long ago. The young lady was exuberant because she graduated from the Anderson school system with a 4.0. I got on the phone to my daughter, who's a professor down south, and I said, need you to help homegirl here get a good scholarship. It fell silent. Dad, their SAT scores were not high enough. They could be a 4-point in Anderson school system, but yet their parents will have to pay out an additional $4,000 or $5,000 for their going to college, when if they come up through a good school system with good SAT scores, their parents could have avoided all of this expense. You got to get moving. If you want to work on this, Kim, would you stand up? Kim from my campaign is working on this. Give him your name and phone number before you go.
One of the rules of the forum is that there are no props allowed, but I don't think Kim's really a prop, I guess. All right, question number 4, and Mr. Melton will be the first to respond. And again, it's not a question as much as a statement to respond to. Discuss 2 things you would do differently than the current administration. Discuss 2 things you would do differently than the current administration. Mr. Melton?
Well, first of all, I would implement a cost-saving and suggestion program. This cost-saving and suggestion program would first be started within the city. City employees would be paid for their good cost savings and their suggestions and their ideas. In addition to that, I would also start a volunteer group of talented professionals in the community who would work and give their service to the city on a voluntary basis. We would pay for their expenses, but we would do this to help turn the city around. I'd take some of them to Illinois and bring in jobs from Illinois. I'd take some of them to Chicago, to Detroit, to Cleveland. There are struggling businesses everywhere that would gladly want to come to Anderson, especially if we had a good school system. Thank you.
Mr. Stapleton, 2 things you would do differently than the administration.
Once again, I'm going to talk about the newspaper again today. 2 days ago, I believe it was, in one of your polls, there was a statement that said, how do you feel about doing business in the city building? And the overwhelming response was negative from that particular poll that you took. I believe that it's just a matter of retraining people that are in these particular offices, wherever they might be, whether it's permitting or the utility offices. And I'm not trying to pick on any particular office. I'm talking about the city building. When people come here, they should be expected to be treated like customers, because they are your customers. That's the way I have to treat mine, or else they're not going to stay. When they leave here, they should be treated, they should feel like that they've been treated with respect and dignity, and their answers should be answered. These problems that we've got with our billing system and people constantly having to come to the utility office to get problems resolved is just out of hand.
Your turn to respond, Mr. Adcock.
Okay, I think we need to get out and, we need to really get out and market our city. It's, we've got so many good things. We've got the Wigwam, we've got the city parks, we've got Eden Goods and all like that. We've got so much that we don't market to other cities. We need to bring in people. We need to make I-69 a 2-way street so that people are coming this way and spending their money in Anderson. Right now, it seems to be a 1-way street to Indianapolis. Now, I think one of the things that we need to get away from is the good old boy in City Hall with as many friends and family as we have in there. So that is something I think we ought to look at.
Smith?
There are more than a couple issues. However, I want to get back real quick and make a point about education. You know, I understand there are great concerns, rightfully so, about public education in Anderson, Indiana. But my oldest daughter, the only one so far that has graduated from school, the rest are still below graduation age. My oldest daughter was offered an academic scholarship at Butler University, so I think Anderson Community Schools did pretty good. You know, the budgeting is probably one of the critical issues in the city right now. In 2005, we identified that, you know, we have less money. We have less money for property tax collection and from county option income tax collection, two major sources of income. And because of that, we began proactively reducing the cost of government then. And we did so without raising taxes. As a matter of fact, we reduced the city portion of your property tax rate 3 years in a row.
Mr. McClish.
Okay, two things that needs to be addressed would be, one, when I'm elected mayor, I will be a people's mayor where I will not have, or I will not spend all the time in the city office. The city will be my office. I'll be out with the people, working with them. The mayor needs to be out with the people, talking to them, getting their ideas. Also, not making promises that cannot be kept. You work at goals. You set a goal. Our main goal with my administration will be rebuilding the west side. There's been so many past administrations that have said they're going to do something with the west side, and nothing's been done. We've got to rebuild the west side, the north side. Both of these sides of town, both have been neglected. We need to look at them, set goals, and rebuild that part of the town.
Okay, we've arrived at our fifth and final question for this set of Republican candidates, and Mr. McClish will answer first. The question is, other than jobs, what's Anderson's biggest problem, and how would you solve it?
The biggest problem we have right now in Anderson is our tax rates. We've got high sewer rates, we have high tax rates all the way around. To bring new businesses and new people into this town, we have to look at ways to cut the taxes, look at ways we can turn around, get grants to help out with the money that we're going to be cutting on taxes, and looking to the people to save money. We've got to cut the taxes we currently have to bring new businesses and to bring new people into this town.
Mr. Melton, other than jobs, what's Anderson's biggest problem, and how would you solve it?
Tax rates are always a problem. One of the best ways for us to begin this fight against tax rates is, as I indicated earlier, to start a cost-saving program in the city. What can we do to save money? Do we have to pave all those streets? How come they're deteriorating so fast? Someone has some answers. What can we do to save power? What can we do to save energy? These are things, many times Joe Blow has the answer, he's just sitting on it. When we come up with a cash reward system, you'll be surprised at how many people will come up with valid ideals that'll help us to run this city more economically. Thank you.
Mr. Stapleton.
Image and taxes. That would be the two issues that I would say are the most difficult that we have to overcome in Anderson. Image, much because it's been discussed here. People don't talk about Anderson that live here in a positive way when they're talking about Anderson. When you're out in the other communities, throughout the state or throughout the country. We need to promote Anderson individually. We should be proud of Anderson, every one of us. If we're not proud of Anderson, why are we still here? We are having very difficult times. Most of us wouldn't be living here if we didn't love this community, if we didn't have a real connection to this community. As far as taxes go, we need to just make sure that we use the best resources that we can to make sure that the taxes stay low or as low as they can. And then Mr. Milton mentioned, don't redo work that you've already done. If you tore up a road, make sure that the infrastructure under that road is not going to explode 2 weeks later and have to repave.
Mr. Adcock.
Of course, taxes are a big deal to all of us, but I think we need to massively market Anderson and bring in more activity into the streets here. We can make this a fun town. We can make it a money-making town, where we can utilize things that we already have, such as the Wigwam and the Paramount and Athletic Park. I believe the big deal is if we can bring in a whole lot more activity to the city, then it'll develop other businesses that we have already, and then as a result, our taxes will go down.
And the final response to this question, which is, other than jobs, what's Anderson's biggest problem and how would you solve it? Mr. Smith?
No, I'm pleased that my colleagues have all hit on one topic, which is the issue of high taxation, because it is a very big problem, but it's also indicative of a larger problem, which has to do with our economic climate in Anderson, Indiana. I mean, because we have certain struggles, we are collecting less tax money as a city. We've seen those declines. Now, we have increased wheel tax, we've increased other taxes, property taxes is now the 7th highest in the state of Indiana, in Anderson City, and that's injurious to the amount of money we actually collect here. We have to have a minimum amount to run government on. We have to understand that, to pay the streets, to take care of those things. So it's an economic climate all the way around that we have to really aggressively deal with. Now, that includes cutting the cost of government, ladies and gentlemen. If we have less money come in, you can only raise taxes so many times, and how many people here actually earn less money than you did 10 years ago or 5 years ago? So you have less of an ability to pay, and your house is worth less. So we need to get the budget under control.
Okay, now we're ready for the closing statements for each candidate, and Mr. Smith, you'll be happy to know you get 2 minutes for this instead of 1. But you all will be happy to know he's limited to 2 minutes. All of them, not just Kevin. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Smith.
You should have consulted me about time available for responses. I would have added something. I want to get back to how critical the issues are this time around. While during the Smith term we made huge strides in reducing the cost of government, reducing taxes, becoming very efficient as a city, there's much more room to grow in those areas. We hired a good staff. We had sharp people on board, which is the reason that we were on top in pushing new jobs into Anderson, Indiana. Creating an environment where business wanted to be through low taxes, through planning, aggressive planning with roads and water lines and sewer lines. Those are key. Now it's 4 years later. But what I like to do is just tick through some of the things that were actually accomplished during those 4 years and compare those to the last 4 years. We paved $5 million worth of streets. We had the hanging baskets of flowers and plantings over the bridges and down Meridian Street, and we removed the snake on Meridian Street using our own staff in-house. We opened two parks, Riverbend Park, which is a canoe launch, and the Rangeline Nature Preserve that had been city held, and now it's open to the public for use. We opened the Extreme Skate Park. We offered free wireless internet in city parks. We established the fiber optic loop that encircles this city that's created so much opportunity for building. We demolished 418 unsafe buildings. We cleaned up industrial sites such as Remy on Scatterfield Road so we could bring in new business, and we made sure it was zoned in new business. We updated the comprehensive plan that dated from 1962, and we updated that to modern times, and there's more.
Mr. McClish.
In closing, my plan, when my administration gets in, is to work with new businesses when they come in. We offer new businesses when they come in tax abatements. When we do, a good example is Nestle. They came into our town, but what is the actual percentage of the people working at Nestle from this area? If we offer tax abatements to new businesses in this town, we need to make certain that we're guaranteed at least 60% of the employees come from this area, not from out of town. We've got to turn around and bring businesses in here that will help the people. A good example on this is Greenfield, Indiana with Toyota. When they came in, they would not take applications from anybody outside that area until they got a percentage of the employees there. This is what my administration will do. When we bring a business in, we give them a tax abatement. We make certain that they hire 60% from this area so we can get the tax base back from the people here, and it's actually helping the people of Anderson, Indiana.
Mr. Melton.
I just want to say amen. Can you hear now? Okay, sorry about that. I just want to say amen to what Paul McClish said. We have got to bring new businesses in, but we have to have it structured so that they do hire from our city. If they go to this special school system that I'm talking about and talking with other people in the community about, they will have to be a part of the community. They'll have to be hiring from the city to bring them in and to pay a lot of money for their utilities so that they can function, and then they go to Carmel and hire people. It's just unforgivable. Unforgivable. And the next businesses we bring in, they have to have that understanding. Thank you.
Mr. Stapleton, your closing remarks.
Well, it looks like you made a good hit there, buddy. The fact is, both those gentlemen are correct. When we bring companies to Anderson and we pay for the infrastructure, when we pay for the tax abatements, that's your tax money. You should expect a percentage of jobs. I don't know if that's 50, 60, or 70%, but that ought to be in the agreement before they're coming here. I know it's a competitive market, and some of those things are very difficult, but the fact is, other communities that are bringing business to their areas, they are getting those commitments from companies, and we need the same. We need to expect the same from our tax dollars. If I'm elected mayor, I will be out and sell Anderson like a professional salesman every day. I do understand that the fact is, as government, we don't create jobs. Businesses create jobs. Business people create jobs. The best thing we can do is get out of the way and let them work. There are certainly assistance that we can give to them occasionally, but the fact is not restricting everything that they want to do and not causing them to have to buy permits for everything they do. The governmental costs are outrageous for businesses to expand. it was mentioned that parks were built and this was done and that was done. You know, cost cutting in government is a big issue, and I want to close with this. The reason there was so many things able to be done in a prior administration because there was a health care cost savings that Councilman Papella and I worked on that saved millions of dollars in taxes, which allowed many of those programs to be developed. And those are cost-saving matters that we have to continue to look for. Thank you very much.
And last but not least, Mr. Adcock.
Well, business goes in cycles. We have highs and lows, and right now we're in the low, as I mentioned, and so of course we need to get out and promote jobs. Now, how are we going to do that? We, of course, the up-and-coming kids, we need to encourage our schools. We need to encourage our seniors and our churches to back the kids in schools. And then we need adult education. We need to employ our resources that we have in Anderson University and Ivy Tech and Harrison College. And I think we can bring our folks up by the bootstraps. We went by the Chamber of Commerce, and Kyle over there told us that right now there are 2,500 jobs available in Anderson, but people can't actually fill out, they can't fill out the forms to apply. And so we need to help them come up to speed. We need to help all of our folks come up to speed. And I would encourage having a clean, open, fishbowl type government. That's the way I would run the place. Anyway, whatever happens, I want the best for Anderson. No matter who wins, I wish Anderson all the best. We want to do everything for Anderson to win.
All right, folks, let's give these candidates an round of applause. And now you gentlemen can take a seat in the auditorium. We'll take a few minutes here. If you need to get up and stretch, you can do that, and then we'll get right to the Democrats. Democratic side, candidates for Anderson Mayor. And the format is the same that we just did for the Republicans. So each candidate has a minute for an opening statement, and we'll start with Mr. Reese.
Good evening. I'd like to first thanks to Harold Bulletin for allowing us to be here in this forum tonight. I'd like to also thank my lovely wife and my two sons, Fred and Fersan. We'd like to say that we're first here tonight to share with you our platform. I've been encouraged by many citizens all over Anderson and across this community to run for mayor. As mayor, my first priority is to bring in good paying jobs. At the end of my service as mayor, I want to be able to say that I reduced unemployment here in Anderson. We have some difficult issues ahead of us, difficult problems. So it's going to take a mayor to stand up, take a mayor to lead this with a plan and make things happen. I want that opportunity to serve this community. I want this opportunity to be your mayor. Thank you.
And Mr. Alcove is next.
Hello, my name is Rick Alcove. I'm a citizen of Anderson, and I've lived here for 29 years. Two important issues we are facing are a depressed economy and unemployment. Published unemployment figures are not truly accurate. The actual rate is nearly double. While we are surviving, I am not so sure we are alive and well. I think it's time for the city to begin priority in spending and become better at living within its means. The families in Anderson just cannot afford any more increases in fees and taxes.
And Mr. Ackerman.
Thank you.
God, my wife, and my daughter who are here tonight. Thank you for being here. I want to say thank you to the Ackerman team. I think you know who you are. And I want to say this. Anderson is my passion. And it's easy to be up here and be targeted with negative comments. But I can tell you, good things are happening in Anderson, Indiana. Open your eyes and look around. We have been entrusted with a decision to take this community in a different direction. And we've done just that. We have balanced our budget, facing an $8+ million budget at the beginning of 2010, and we completed our task at the end of the year. I'm very, very proud of that. I'm very, very proud of the continued removal of blighted properties. We are rebuilding Anderson. We're bringing back Anderson, and Anderson is here to stay, and I thank you, and I enjoy and honor being your mayor.
All right, here's the first of 5 questions for this group of candidates. And Mr. Ackerman will respond first. The question is, what process would you use to choose department heads and avoid the appearance of favoritism in city hiring?
Honestly, criticism has come from a lot of people in the public about the friends and family. And I want you to do some research. Look at the employment and the employees in the city and look at what their hiring dates are. This administration is not guilty of what's been implicated here. These people have worked under and been hired by the Smith administration, they've been hired by the McMahon administration, and the Rock administration. And it's a good thing to say that, implications are easy to throw rocks. But look at the process we went through, my police chief, my fire chief. We went through very intensive interviews through our transition as we came into office. I'm very, very proud of the way we selected them. We selected some people who were bad apples that we had to change, and we were criticized for that. But sometimes you have to make tough decisions. If somebody's not doing their job, get someone who will, and that's exactly what we did.
Mr. Reese, the question is, what process would you use to choose department heads and avoid the appearance of favoritism in city hiring?
First of all, we must have an open hiring process. It must be open to all citizens. It must follow a procedure that it doesn't change one day to the next, but it's a process that everyone understands. It's a process that we all follow. My son asked me for a job when I was park superintendent. I wouldn't dare went to the mayor and ask him to hire my son. One reason is enough. There's others who have asked for jobs. We must take that process, take the process as well as we want to be able to look at people's credentials, look at their education, look and see how they fit into our programs as far as jobs. We want to be able to get the correct and great people to work for the city. It's not enough, let me say this again, it's not enough to promise it. You must be willing to put together an ordinance that deals with maybe nepotism, an ordinance to deal with how we will hire a process throughout the city and follow. Thank you.
Mr. Alcove?
I believe that city officials should be hired based on their skills and competence in the area for which they are being considered. And I do believe that the appearance of impropriety by hiring friends or acquaintances or family should be avoided.
Question number 2, and Mr. Alcove will have the chance to respond first. How can Anderson grow economically in the next 4 years? How can Anderson grow economically in the next 4 years?
I believe the foreseeable future is in the field of technology and technology-related services. These companies have an expanded customer base and do not depend heavily on the community in which they're located for their market base. I believe we should attempt to attract these kinds of businesses to Anderson.
Mr. Ackerman,
Repeat the question again, Scott, please.
how can Anderson grow economically in the next 4 years?
I believe that we will continue our growth. Over the past 3.5 years, I can say that 6,639 building permits have been issued, and the total construction value on all of those is $599 million, just shy of $600 million. I think that our aggressive staff and economic development continues to work hard in attracting places such as the farm. We are becoming rapidly a destination point, and people need to have patience that it doesn't happen overnight, but we are finding these leads not only nationally and internationally, but also locally. Mike Shirley, who's a local prospect, has invested $6 million in a project out south and kept it here in Anderson. I believe he knows that the writing's on the wall that Anderson's on its way back, and I think we need to rely on the local people and any other green technology and electrification businesses that we look at around the world.
Mr. Reese?
Well, Scott, there's various issues we need to deal with as far as trying to help develop growth here in Anderson. First of all, jobs. We need good paying jobs. We need to be able to go to our businesses and identify those businesses immediately so that we can get instant jobs for our youth. You know, when I was growing up, the one thing that helped my household is I was able to hold a job as a teenager. Little money, but it helped in the household. We want that opportunity for our youth. We look at education. We heard that over all through the night, that our education system needs some work. We need to partner with our educational system here at the city government and provide quality education to our students. Taxes. We need to reduce taxes. So how do we do that? We look up and down to see where we can cut costs. And it starts from the top. We can't have administration anymore starting from the bottom. It starts from the top. And ethics. If a community that has a good city, people will come to it. Thank you.
Okay, question number 3. Mr. Reese will have the first chance to respond. The question is, what should be done to revitalize Anderson's downtown?
We need to look in all our different departments. I need to do this, I'm sorry, kind of back in the old day. We need to look at all the departments and look at how our uptown, downtown area needs to be revitalized. One of the things that we need to look at is how do we use our federal resources to help implement programs and help implement building structures and help supporting structures here in the uptown area. Another thing that we need to look at, how can we use the sources that we do have? We have former business people. We have business people here in town. We have a retired group of people who have a lot of resources that can help us in revitalizing our downtown area. We're blessed to have one of the nicest areas in many cities across Indiana. But what we need to do, we have to have a plan. In that plan, this will identify different issues and different things that we need to do as far as uptown area.
Mr. Alco, what would you do to, what should be done to revitalize Anderson's downtown?
Revitalizing the downtown Anderson is a very difficult task. And it was made much more difficult 30 years ago when they changed the route of traffic and closed off Meridian Street. And that's when businesses started leaving the downtown area. It's going to be difficult to bring it back downtown because parking has always been a problem in the downtown area since that happened, and it is to this very day.
the Ockman plan, as you can see, we've already began to remove the blighted buildings, the Antique Mall, the Caboose Lounge, the other bar next door. We began to beautify the front of the dance studio along the railroad tracks. We also have the finest bus system in the state of Indiana, and we are currently beginning the process of constructing a new intermodal bus terminal located down near the bridge near Dossett's Garage. I'm very, very excited about that project, and that will connect into the trail system. It's an easy way to do it, but the money has to be there. And again, patience is a virtue, and I believe that if you stick with this administration, you will see results in the downtown area as we continue forward.
Mr. Reese? Sure. Okay, my fault. Question 4, with Mr. Ackerman starting. What lessons can Anderson learn from the successes of cities elsewhere? What lessons can Anderson learn from the successes of cities elsewhere?
Well, I know earlier in the conversation there was some direction from a couple of the Republican candidates about making I-69 a one-way or a two-way street instead of a one-way street and going to Indianapolis. The Ackerman administration currently is engaged in what we call the Green Corridor Initiative, and we have partnered with Hamilton County, along with Fishers, Indiana, Pendleton, Indiana, and several other communities to the north and to the east of us. We began a 30-year plan. It is modeled after the area of Boulder, Colorado, and it's a long-term plan. We have to look at the future. Everything doesn't happen overnight, and it's not made for the Ackerman administration. It's not made for the next administration. It's for many, many years to come. We are a bedroom community of Indianapolis. We are going to be for a long, long time, and we need to start thinking of ways to capitalize on how we can improve our economic base by tailing off of what we see in Fishers, such as Exit 10 and Castleton and so forth. Thank you.
Now, Mr. Reese.
I think that we should pretty much compare our city to cities like Fishers, Indianapolis, Noblesville. These cities are growing, expanding. We need to look at how these cities do some benchmarking, see what some of these cities are doing, bring growth. They're next door, they're our neighbors. We want the opportunity to pretty much put a community together that you can be proud of. We have I-69 located right there on our commerce. We have Fort Wayne above us, Indianapolis below us. We have to do a better job of connecting those different cities so that we can supply those cities and be able to grow. These cities are growing. They're our neighbors. We need to grow. We need to look at our jobs. We need to look at our education. We need to look at reducing our taxes as well as bettering our services. Thank you.
Mr. Alco.
I'm not so sure that we should compare ourselves with another city or even try to copycat another city. I think Anderson is Anderson, and it's always been that way. We suffered a 1-2 punch when Guy Lamp and Del Corini packed up and left. But Anderson has some really good things going for it. We're situated really very close to a major hub city, but with all the congestion and the hassle associated with actually being in a major hub city. But Anderson is quite accessible from all directions. 2 federal highways, several state highways, and numerous county arterial roads. We just need to concentrate and focus our efforts on bringing business to Anderson and restoring Anderson to its glory.
Okay, 5th and final question for this set of candidates. We'll start with Mr. Alcove. The question is, how can the city reverse annual budget cuts How can the city reverse annual budget cuts? Mr. Alco?
This has been answered and answered. When the tax base is dwindling, the population is dwindling, the budget dwindles. Simple math. But what we can do is try our very best to live within our budget. Because the people that are still here are struggling, and we cannot just keep raising the fees and taxes. We have to start setting priorities and on projects based on need, cost, and benefit. And we need to start making these assessments, because we're going to, until things get better, we're going to be faced with smaller budgets, and even smaller than dwindling more budgets.
Mr. Opperman?
Yes, I want to say that obviously tax collection continues to come in lower than expected. And also, I want to say that the cuts that are made, if you talk about employees, I think that the city of Anderson has made or laid off less employees than most cities in Indiana. We've maintained a high priority on public safety. We've maintained a high priority on most other jobs. The park department took it kind of tough. We had to make some very tough decisions in there. But we've been able to be creative through volunteerism and find other ways to continue to survive. But what's happening in Washington, D.C. right now, it scares me to death. And what's happening in Indianapolis, in the State House, scares me to death. It's going to hurt our schools. It's going to hurt our federal funding. So we have to continue to be creative in what we do. And if someone says up here that they have a plan, your plan will change when you get into office. If it's not me, trust me. Thank you.
Mr. Reese? The question again is, how can the city reverse annual budget cuts?
We have to be committed to decisions. We have to look at our budget from top to bottom. We have to look at ways of cutting costs and sharing those costs with you as far as reducing taxes. We have to look at, as leaders, what do we need to do as leaders to make it better for this community? If it calls for us to reduce our salaries, we need to do that. But we need to start from the top. Sometimes when you get to cutting on the bottom, you lose a lot of services. In our city, if you look at our city, we have a lot of services lost. Our cities are not looking good. Our communities are not looking great. They're dirty, they're nasty. You build the west side, you build the east side. We need to be better in providing services for our community. So what I want to share with you today is, let's please give an opportunity for those who do have a plan, who do have ideas. Let's give them an opportunity to run this city. Thank you very much.
That concludes the question portion of the forum. Now, closing remarks from each candidate. You have 2 minutes. We'll start with Mr. Reese.
I'd like to say thank you again for allowing us this opportunity to share with you our ideas and share with you our platform. We have some difficult decisions to make on May the 3rd. You'll have to make that decision. I applaud all the candidates up here for sharing with you their ideas. But you've seen what you received for the past 4 years. You've seen what you received for the past 8 years. We need a leadership that's going to be for the people, inclusive for all people. We need jobs. We know that. We need a better educational system. I believe our government can partner with our school systems to make things better. We're talking about purchasing by. We can come together and purchase with our buying power, cut costs on materials and goods. Let's look at taxes. We need to reduce our taxes. We have young people in this community without jobs, young ladies who have children, unable to pay for the utilities. We need good jobs for a man and a woman to be able to raise their family. We need good jobs for kids to feel good for themselves, feel good about themselves, that they can plateau themselves as teenagers to adults to real good paying jobs. And ethics. We need an ordinance that deal with ethics of how we do as leaders of this community. If we do wrong by employees, by people, by misappropriation of monies, we need to be charged with that issue and pay the piper. I want the opportunity to bring honest leadership to this community. I want an opportunity to take our young people to the next level. Technology, a future where they have quality education. I want to thank you once again, and I hope you vote Fred Reeves as mayor.
Mr. Alto.
As a city, we can be thrifty, we can be frugal, we can become better at managing our finances, we can do better at educating our youth by teaching them technology subjects at an earlier age, thereby giving them a better chance of success when they enter the job market. We can do all of these things, but in the end, we are still at the mercy of the decisions made in Washington. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for taking the time and making the effort to come here this evening. Thank you.
And Mr. Ackerman.
First of all, Scott, thank you to you and your staff for hosting this. It's such a great venue here at City Hall. We're very, very proud of this. And I want to say thank you to the other candidates, all of you that have participated here tonight. And I want to say thank you to everybody in the audience. This is the democratic process. I don't have all the answers, and I don't think any of these candidates have all the answers. Everybody has an idea that they can do it better than the next guy. And I've been very, very fortunate to serve as your mayor for 4 years. What an opportunity it has been to put forth my ideas and try the best things that I know to bring this city up to a level where we can be very, very proud of where we live. Anderson is on its way back, and high priority is that we have electrification in our midst. We have economic development very aggressively being worked each and every day. And I want to tell you something. I am very proud of Anderson and what's going on here, and I look forward to the opportunity to serve you for 4 more years. My name is Chris Ackerman. I am your mayor, and I will continue to seek the progress we need in this city to make it the very best place that we can be and live. I thank you for that, and God bless each and every one of you.